There's a version of you waiting on the other side of something. Maybe it's a project that has to close out. Maybe it's a diagnosis or the end of a treatment. Maybe it's a number in a bank account, a signature on a piece of paper. The day the kids finally move out or the day the promotion finally comes through, you've told yourself quietly, more than once, that once that thing resolves, you'll actually start living the way you were supposed to. Not the version of you holding a job together, managing a crisis, getting through a hard season, the other one, the real one, the one who finally gets to rest. Here's the strange part. You've probably said this before about something else, and you were right that time too. That other thing did end. The debt got paid off, the relationship ended, or the health scare passed, or the job finally changed. For a while, it genuinely felt different, lighter, and then, without your noticing exactly when, a new version of the same weight quietly took its place. Maybe you can even name the exact sentence you use with yourself. Once this quarter is over, once the house is paid off, once I hear back. It doesn't sound like a big claim when you say it. It sounds like patience, like planning, like being an adult about a hard stretch. But underneath the ordinary phrasing is a much larger promise you've made yourself without ever examining it. That this specific event, whenever it finally arrives, is going to do something no other event in your life has managed to do yet. This isn't a claim that nothing ever really ends. Things end constantly, and some of those endings matter enormously. They change what's possible, who has power over you, how much pain fits into an ordinary day. What this is about is something narrower and far more specific. The belief that one particular ending is going to do more than resolve a situation, that it's going to resolve you, that it will finally make everything leading up to it feel like it was worth it, that it will hand you permission to exist without qualification. And this is the part almost nobody says out loud, that it will guarantee nothing like it is waiting behind it. Notice how much work you've quietly assigned to that one moment. It has to grant you rest so you don't have to keep proving anything. It has to grant you identity so you finally know who you are once the striving stops. It has to grant you permission so you're allowed to enjoy your life instead of just surviving it. And it has to grant you completeness, the sense that the story is actually finished, that there's no more unfinished business quietly waiting in the wings. That's an enormous amount to expect from a single event. A promotion, a payoff, a clean scan, a wedding, a diploma. These are real things capable of real relief. What they were never built to do is retroactively justify every year that came before them or guarantee that no comparable weight is coming next. There's an old figure people usually bring up to talk about punishment, and the detail that matters most about him often gets left out. Sisyphus, in the version most people remember, is condemned to push a boulder up a mountain, watch it roll back down and do it again forever. The detail people skip is what he knows. Camus, writing about him, doesn't describe a man who is still hoping the next push will be the last one. He describes a man who has stopped hoping for that entirely. In Camus' treatment, Sisyphus holds no expectation that the boulder will remain at the summit. There is no final ascent coming, and he knows it. That knowledge and the way it changes his relationship to the labor is the actual subject. This is where the contrast becomes useful and where it's worth being precise, because it's easy to get backwards. Sisyphus is not a model of someone waiting for an ending. He's the opposite. He is what a person looks like once the hope for a final, all-resolving arrival has been completely removed. You, on the other hand, the person checking your phone for the results, the person doing the math on when the debt clears, the person telling themselves just get through this year, you are still climbing toward what you believe will be the last one. That's the actual difference this video is built around. Not that Sisyphus suffers and you don't, that he has already lost the specific illusion you're still operating inside of. The part of the myth almost nobody talks about is the walk back down. Camus lingers on it, and for good reason. It's the one stretch of the whole cycle where Sisyphus isn't pushing anything. The rock is already at the bottom again. There's nothing to do yet. He simply walks down the slope, unhurried, fully aware of what's waiting for him when he arrives. No task in front of him, no completed task behind him that releases him from what comes next. Just the walk and the knowledge. That walk is the moment the video keeps returning to, because it's the exact moment where, for you, hope usually rushes in to fill the gap. You finish a task and immediately reach for the next deadline that will supposedly settle things. You pay off one thing and start quietly tracking the next number. The pause itself makes people uncomfortable, because a pause with nothing resolved and nothing yet demanded of you is exactly where the fantasy of a final ending would have to prove itself. And it's exactly where it goes, quiet instead. Sisyphus doesn't fill that walk with hope for a different outcome next time. He simply walks it. What's left, once you strip out the hope of a different outcome, turns out to be the actual question this video is asking about your own life. Run the mechanism across a few ordinary situations, and the pattern gets easier to see. Take the promotion or the debt, two different objects, the same architecture underneath. You tell yourself that once you're finally in the new role, or once the number hits 0, some heavier weight will lift. Not just the specific obligation, but a whole feeling that's been sitting underneath your life for years. And when it happens, something does lift. The title changes, the payment is gone. Circumstances that were genuinely hard get genuinely easier, and that's not nothing. What's less certain is whether the deeper feeling underneath it, the sense of falling behind, or of not yet having proven anything, resolves at the same rate the circumstance does, or whether it quiets for a while and then finds a new place to attach itself, a new title still to reach, a new number still to watch. Take a relationship you're waiting to stabilize, waiting for the arguments to stop, for some conversation that will settle things permanently. Some conversations genuinely do settle real, specific issues, and settling them can make things measurably better for a long stretch afterward. What a single conversation is less able to do is retire, once and for all, the underlying need for reassurance that sent you looking for it in the first place. That need can go quiet for a good while without being guaranteed to close for good. Take healing, in the literal sense, recovering from an illness, finishing a course of treatment, getting a clean result back. This is maybe the sharpest version of the pattern, because the relief here is completely real and often life-changing. Nobody would tell a person who just got good news to distrust it. The distinction that matters is narrower. The good news can end an illness, and that's a real and sufficient thing on its own. It's less reliable at ending the vigilance a person built up while they were sick, the habit of scanning the body for warning signs, the quiet expectation that something else is probably coming. That vigilance can outlast the illness that caused it, and it usually has to be addressed on its own terms, separately from the diagnosis clearing. Take rest, or the broader search for stability, the sense that a real break, or finally figuring yourself out, will switch the underlying urgency off for good. A vacation can genuinely restore you. Understanding yourself better can genuinely change how you move through your days. Neither of those is an illusion, and the relief they bring is often real and lasting for a while. What's less dependable is the deeper exemption both are quietly asked to provide, a state of being caught up, or finished, that never needs revisiting again. That kind of exemption isn't something a break or an insight is actually positioned to guarantee, even when everything about them worked exactly as intended. There's a reason the mind keeps reaching for this same structure, and it isn't a design flaw. When strain runs on long enough, the present starts to feel provisional by default, not somewhere to actually live, just a stretch to get through before things settle. A specific endpoint turns that open-ended strain into something with a shape, a date, a number, a result, something to hold on to and count down toward. instead of sitting with a difficulty that has no visible edge. Telling yourself after this isn't laziness or denial. It's often the exact thing that gets a person through a genuinely hard stretch, borrowing relief from an imagined future. And underneath that, there's something quieter. As long as real living is scheduled for later, nobody has to test whether they're ready to live now, unresolved, without waiting for a permission that was never actually a precondition. It helps to actually separate two things that keep getting fused together here, because they're not quite the same claim. A concrete resolution is specific and situational. A balance reaches zero, a scan comes back clean, a title changes, a conversation actually gets had. These are real, and so are their effects on the inside. A resolved debt really can bring relief. A clean scan really can shift how safe a person feels in their own body. A hard conversation really can change how someone understands who they are. The mistake isn't expecting an external event to reach the inner life. It often does. The mistake is expecting that effect to become final, permanent, sealed, protected in advance from anything the future might still ask of you. External resolution and psychological closure are genuinely connected. One often produces the other, sometimes for a long time. What no single resolution can do is guarantee that the closure it produced will hold under every condition that comes next, no matter how complete it felt in the moment. Notice what all of these share. In every case, something concrete really can resolve. The debt clears, the treatment ends, the promotion happens, the difficult conversation gets had. That resolution is not an illusion, and this isn't an argument for treating your effort as pointless or your goals as decoration. The mistake isn't wanting the debt paid off or the illness treated. The mistake is a second, quieter belief, riding along with the first one, that this particular resolution will also do the psychological work of making the years before it feels sufficient, of settling your worth, of guaranteeing you nothing else like it is coming. A single event can genuinely do both jobs at once, resolve the circumstance and produce real psychological relief alongside it. What it can't do is guarantee that closure holds permanently under every condition the future still has time to bring. This is exactly where Sisyphus becomes useful again, because he's already living on the far side of that confusion. Every so often, the myth gives him a version of arrival. The rock does reach the top. For one instant, something concrete has genuinely resolved. The specific climb is over, and then it rolls back down immediately with no delay built in for him to enjoy the accomplishment. If Sisyphus had spent that climb expecting the summit to finally excuse him from ever climbing again, that moment would be devastating every single time, forever. He doesn't experience it that way because he was never carrying that expectation into the climb in the first place. The rock reaching the top was never assigned the job of ending anything beyond that specific climb. So when it rolls back down, nothing collapses, because nothing that mattered psychologically was staked on it staying there. That's not resignation, and it's not a trick for feeling better about repetition. It's closer to an accurate accounting of what an ending can and can't hold. Most people, watching their own rock roll back down, watching the new project appear right behind the one they just finished, or the new expense show up right behind the one they just paid off, read that as evidence the whole effort failed, that they're somehow back at the beginning, but the return of a new task isn't proof that the last one didn't count. The debt that got paid off stays paid off. The treatment that helped was not made meaningless by whatever came afterward. What returns isn't the old problem, it's the ordinary condition of being alive, which was never going to stop producing new things to attend to, no matter how cleanly the last one closed. You can watch this same accounting happen in an ordinary life if you look for the moment right after something real gets resolved, the day the debt clears, the day the treatment ends, the day the promotion is confirmed. There's usually a flicker of exactly the flatness this video keeps circling back to, relief, mixed with a strange, quiet disappointment that the rest of it, the identity, the permission, the retroactive sense that it was all worth it, didn't arrive along with the resolution. That flatness isn't a sign that the achievement was hollow or that you should have wanted something else. It's a sign that the event may have done both jobs, resolved something real, and changed how you felt, but could never guarantee that the change would remain final under everything that came next. Camus' essay is remembered for closing on the idea that Sisyphus can be imagined as happy, 5 words that get repeated so often they've been flattened into a slogan. What the ending actually emphasizes in Camus' own framing is narrower than the slogan suggests, a kind of lucidity. Sisyphus fully conscious of his condition, with no external resolution coming, facing what's in front of him without illusion. The essay centers consciousness and lucidity, bound up with Sisyphus consciously claiming his own fate rather than waiting to be rescued from it. In the psychological reading developed here, that means clear sight rather than rescue, facing a life no longer suspended until some final resolution arrives. He wasn't writing about promotions, debts, or clean results. He was writing about a figure with no ending coming at all. That translation is this video's application of the essay's structure, not a claim about exactly what Camus argued point for point. The popular "imagine him happy" reading often gets taken as an instruction to enjoy the grind for its own sake, a different emphasis than the lucid, unresolved awareness the essay itself describes, though how far apart the two readings really are is worth checking rather than asserting outright. What's left, in this video's terms, isn't triumph and it isn't despair. It's the walk down the mountain, done consciously, with nothing left riding on where it leads. None of this is a case for giving up on endings or telling yourself that goals don't matter or deciding in advance that nothing you finish will count. Debts should get paid off. Treatments should get finished. Difficult conversations should get had. And the version of you that's been managing a crisis deserves the moment when the crisis actually stops. None of that is in question here. What's in question is the second, unspoken clause attached to almost all of it, the quiet expectation that this particular ending will also do the work of making you feel finished, that it will settle a debt no ending was ever equipped to settle. Somewhere behind the promotion, the payoff, the clean result, there's very likely another rock already waiting, and that's not a failure of the achievement you just had. It's simply what happens next, the same way it happens next for Sisyphus. There isn't a version of this that ends with a formula for feeling complete, because what's actually being ruled out here is narrower than completeness itself. This isn't a claim that peace, integration, or real closure are unavailable to you. They aren't. Real closure happens. Real peace happens, sometimes for long stretches at a time. What isn't on offer is a final version of any of that, a closure guaranteed to survive whatever the future asks of you next, a completeness with no expiration built into it. What's available instead is smaller and more honest, noticing when you've handed a single future event more authority than any event can actually carry, and choosing to live in the part of your life that isn't waiting for it. Not because the wait is foolish, and not because nothing you're working toward matters. Because the walk down the mountain is not a delay before your life resumes. For long stretches walked with your eyes open, it is your life running the whole time, whether or not you've been willing to notice it. You will probably still name a next thing, that's fine. It isn't a failure to have a next thing. And this isn't an argument for drifting through your days without direction. The difference is quieter than that. It's the gap between working toward something because it's genuinely worth working toward, and working toward it because you've quietly decided your right to feel finished is being held hostage until it arrives. One of those is an ordinary, healthy way to move through a life. The other keeps the actual living permanently one event away, no matter how many of those events you clear. Sisyphus never gets a version of the myth where the boulder finally stays. What he gets instead is the walk over and over with nothing hidden behind it, nothing withheld until later. That walk is not what happens instead of his life. By the time Camus is done with him, it's clear that it never was.